And the dollar, it tried to push higher yesterday, tried to push higher today, and it's just come smashing back down again. But the 9 and 13 count is something to take very seriously.
Yeah,
and again,
that's what I said.
It doesn't really. It's going to give us a signal for what happens at the back end of the year. But if we go back to that chart you were showing of 2017, it's kind of suggesting that, these corrective patterns eventually fall away. The market digests this huge move that we had. It's a monstrous move. And then we go to another leg lower where we think it probably goes to somewhere between 95 and 90.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Smart Invest. Raoul Pal's Banana Zone is currently in its second phase, which is a full-blown altcoin supercycle driven by rising liquidity, retail reentry, and macro tailwinds. Midway through the year 2025, Ethereum, Solana, meme coins, and microcaps have all experienced significant gains. But the breakout of Bitcoin in late 2024 marked the beginning of phase 1. The rally is supported by macroeconomic data such as encouraging US PMIs and improving financial conditions. However, Julien warns that a correction may occur by the month of August if the dollar DXY continues to climb toward 104. A transition, not an end, would be marked by that pullback, which would set the stage for Phase 3, which would see Bitcoin and Ethereum retake the leadership position and valuations soar.
So, firstly, Bitcoin dominance. This was try to get to the 9. It kind of would have been 9 that day. I put out that tweet saying Bitcoin dominance has peaked, and it peaked. It went up, put in another 9, and I think it's going to continue to fall from here. So that's like the start of the alt season. But really, it won't fall until we start getting below this kind of 61.5 level, something like this, 62. If it does that, then the much bigger game is at play, I think. I don't know whether that does. No, we kind of had a trend line here.
Well, if that's right, we just retested and push lower.
That's right. So that's one that's interesting to me. Solana, again, it's got this 13 like Bitcoin has. Looks like it's a wedge. There was that spike, but generally it was like this inverse head and shoulders. A bit of chopping around here. Next leg will be higher. When that is, whether we need to go a bit lower first. Sui was the kind of saying to me, if I actually go to my normal Sui chart, I mean, there's nothing much to say right here. I think this is some sort of flaggy pattern. This is obviously we have to ignore because that spike and down and back up again. But somewhere here is some sort of just corrective pattern like we've seen a million times in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't yet look like it wants to break higher.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's chopping the market, but maybe it's just the M2 chart that we looked at before. There's just a bit of chop to be had still, just as everyone starts getting really bullish because everybody's opening one of these new kind of MicroStrategy copies and everything else. So I think that ETH, I've not been using these charts a little for a bit, but ETH just continues to look good from every level. Where's my daily chart? That's the weekly. They're all fucked up because I've not been over here for a bit.
There it is. There's that inverse head and shoulders.
Yeah, the inverse head and shoulders is a bit all my scaling screwed. It all looks good. I mean, it's just rejected here. Maybe this all comes back down to 2,300 or so before then finally making the break. Doesn't feel wildly unlikely. And then because those are doing that, everything's doing the same. I mean, ETH Bitcoin, same. There's like an inverse head and shoulders here. Let's just move that. Somewhere here is like an inverse head and shoulders. I think, again, this is the classic sign of alt season. I think somewhere here, once it breaks this, then we're going back up here. And that'll be the start of something much bigger, I think, finally. And that's the classic sign of some sort of alt season. What else have I been looking at? So there's not really much to report right now. As you said, things are kind of in this corrective pattern. doesn't look a long-term thing. It looks like it's kind of next week or something like that.
Yeah.
So we wait and see. On the other stuff, I mean, fuck me, our call on Hood was good.
Well, I was going to tell you, I mean, I was just looking at even the calls at the pro level. GMI got them sooner, so they're higher. But even at the pro level, Tesla calls are up 360%. Coin calls are up 115%. The Hood calls that we put in on GMI are up more than that. And even just the outright, right, QQQ edition at pro is up 14%.
Yeah, I know.
Big moves. But we got a Hood, that inverse head and shoulders there on Coinbase. That was big.
Yeah, and it still feels like bit corrective and then the next move, because the chart in Hood, if we look at the weekly chart, is not in Hood, in Coinbase, is a very, very, very big inverse head and shoulders. And this chart pattern is a monster.
Yeah,
Something around here. If we break that previous high, this level, I mean, this thing is literally going to 1,000.
Yeah.
So still super keen on that.
What's RecLab doing?
Rocket Labs.
I mean, Rocket Lab, RecLab.
Rocket Lab is doing beautifully.
Yeah, we added that as well. That looks good.
Yeah, I mean, we added it somewhere down here.
Yeah.
Now it's actually counting to weekly 8. So maybe it pauses, but Rocket Lab's looking excellent. So if I look at the daily version, we're back up at the all-time high. So that was another great ad. We've traded that twice really well, actually. Tesla, just great. And it keeps doing this. This is like ETH, but it's actually broken through. Now, whether it fails to break through or not, I don't know. But again, it's just the Tesla chart just is so good. And the long-term one that we've used in the past, the log chart, is spectacular. So I still like those. Semis, that looks good as well. We just need to break a level and start trending higher from there. But semi, let's change it to the weekly. I mean, I don't see any reason why this just isn't this repeated.
Yeah. Right.
It does a bit of fucking around at the highs again, and semis will have another leg higher. Can't see a world that that's not going to happen, considering what is going on in AI right now. The other one is 10-year yields. 10-year yields on the weekly have gone nowhere. So everyone's all fretting and screaming and shouting about yields and the world's going to end. Nothing has happened. But when I look at the daily, we've got a chance that yields are going to, we've got this 13 and this 9, but we had no 13 there. Whether we come back down, it feels like more like 2017 where yields actually don't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I have been saying. And I saw the 9 as well on DMARC, and I feels like they'll come lower.
Yeah, that's possible. And the dollar, it tried to push higher yesterday, tried to push higher today, and it's just come smashing back down again. But the 9 and 13 count is something to take very seriously.
Yeah,
and again,
that's what I said.
It doesn't really. It's going to give us a signal for what happens at the back end of the year. But if we go back to that chart you were showing of 2017, it's kind of suggesting that, these corrective patterns eventually fall away. The market digests this huge move that we had. It's a monstrous move. And then we go to another leg lower where we think it probably goes to somewhere between 95 and 90.
There is a convergence of technical signals across the cryptocurrency market, with Raoul Pal and Julien bid indicating bullish setups despite the fact that price action is moving in a sideways direction. The volatility of Solana has fallen below 50, which is a level that has historically been associated with major rallies, including a rally of 10 times. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum are exhibiting patterns that are similar to one another, with DMARC indicators indicating strength. Near support and flag formations indicating that the price may continue to rise. This phase, which is a consolidation phase before the next surge, is referred to by Pal as the boring zone, despite the fact that Bitcoin dominance is decreasing. Charts for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Sol, and even XRP are displaying bullish reversal patterns such as inverse head and shoulders. This indicates that capital is being redirected into alternative cryptocurrencies, which is a key characteristic of Phase 2 in the banana zone.
So, again, there's nothing I see is particularly, well, certainly nothing in equity land is bearish, but we're getting at levels of all-time highs where you get a bit of congestion. That will make sense. Nothing in crypto concerns me in any way, shape, or form. It's just chopping around here. Feels like we're just going to be weaker for a bit, digesting various bits of news before we have the next leg.
Well, and it's also, just to put things into perspective, since our flash update on the 7th of April, the S&P 500 is up 22%. The NASDAQ's up 29%. Bitcoin's up, as I had said earlier, 46%. Solana's up 84%. ETH is up 93%. And SUI's up 116%. And now the market's overbought. That's all that's happening here. And the thing that I pointed out yesterday is that, when you think about like pure quant hedge funds, or whether they're momentum based or however you want to think about that, some of these funds go straight to net short on an overbought reading, right? So this is just profit taking. It's all it is. So the market's digesting the news. We're overbought. Certain people are, taking profit with the hope of buying a bit lower, whatever that is. So that's just why I think we're kind of chopping and people are waiting around for something to happen. But we're digesting a big move in markets.
And, it's really interesting to see how strong the ETH narrative comes back. And I've been saying it for a while, is like, people can write off ETH. They're ridiculous. ETH has enormous amounts going for it. And now we've seen this new MicroStrategies version by Joe Lubin of buying ETH. I also think the financial system uses ETH a lot more. And I think ETH outperforms Bitcoin all the rest of the cycle now. And that's not uncommon. So
if we're right about the ISM, then that's how it should play out.
That's right. And Solana should over time outperform ETH, but ETH's got catch up to do. So it's all correct. It will be corrective on that cross, but eventually Solana should outperform it and SUI should outperform Solana. I don't see any reason why. No, I think this should be a corrective flag pattern. And then when we break higher, it'll be some sort of cup and handle or whatever. And that will push us to the next level, back up to maybe the highs. So I think everything looks as expected. I think it's going to be boring for a few days. But let's see. Anything else you're thinking about?
No, not really. As I said, I did my kind of brain dump yesterday.
I don't know what the fuck we're going to write for GMI, but
I mean, we'll figure it out.
We got a call on that later.
No,
but I think that's it, guys. There's not much more to talk about. It's kind of everything's on track. Just a bit of overbought digestion. I think we should get that in equities at some point as well, because they've had this monstrous movement back to all-time highs there and thereabouts. You probably get a bit of congestion, a bit of profit taking, and then we get the leg higher. That leg higher should be, all of June should be strong. All of July should be strong. August should be more complicated, which is what we've been saying, which should be phase two of the correction of the banana zone.
The other thing that's just before we go is the only other thing I wanted to say, which I think you and I were talking about before you were in Texas, was the fact that of how underweight institutions are on equities, right? That chart from the Bank of America Fund Manager Survey. So they're the most underweight since May of 2023, as I had pointed out yesterday. Speculators are still net short the S&P 500. And what I had said is, you and I both run money. And when you're underperforming, although you were at a hedge fund, I had a benchmark, but when you're underperforming your benchmark and you missed this rip higher, there's going to be serious FOMO once equities make new all-time highs to get into the market. Because that's why I think there's a limit to how much further the market can fall on that basis. But that's just, I just feel like these dips will, whatever they are, be bought, because there's still a huge amount of people that are short and not in the market.
Yeah, I think the other thing to bear in mind is that if there is a dip near all-time highs and the economic data is improving, that dip will be bought because it has to be by the institutions and the hedge funds.
The most recent analysis by Julien and Raoul Pal focuses on concrete evidence to show why cryptocurrency is approaching a critical juncture. Strong regional PMs such as Dallas and Richmond are driving a macro reassessment, and the city economic surprise index is rising as U.S. economic data exceeds forecasts. The ASM is emphasized by BID as a crucial signal because, historically, cryptocurrency rallies when the ISM bottoms and starts to rise, which is currently the case. As financial conditions improve, as measured by GMI's proprietary index, liquidity is flowing into riskier assets and markets are moving away from a recession mindset and toward pricing in stronger growth. Pal contends that global M2 is driven by financial conditions, indicating the formation of a real-time liquidity wave. By examining the 3-month rate of change in global M2 regressed against a commodity basket. BID refines this and now indicates a liquidity peak that is probably in August. That is consistent with a possible short-term cryptocurrency peak that could be brought on by both M2 and a potential increase in the value of the US dollar. The DXY may reach 104 according to DMARC wave counts, which would tighten financial conditions and lead to a correction. This would just be a typical mid-phase pullback, similar to those that occurred in 2017 and 2021, rather than the cycle's end. The last significant buying window before Phase 3 of the banana zone. The last euphoric surge driven by Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few other altcoins could occur if that scenario materializes. Though history demonstrates that this volatility frequently precedes the largest parabolic moves, the market may feel choppy or uncertain right now. Thus, the following are the main queries. Are you ready for the next step? Are you sticking with Bitcoin and Ethereum or switching to other cryptocurrencies? It is up to you what you do with the signals now that they are here.